Welcome back. You're back with the Shadow Gallery. I once again am your host, James Donnelly, and now, if you caught my review of the Cape, you will no doubt probably be watching this, which will be my review of last week's comics. Last week, kind of a small week, but a couple of big number ones. Some interesting stuff peppered in here and there. Only 5 comics last week that I got, so this should be relatively short. And if you believe that, I'll tell you another one. Okay, so we're gonna go on. We're just gonna kind of go in whatever order that I care about. So last week saw the release of. We'll start with this one. No. This is Avengers Prime number 5 of 5. If you can see this up close, you can see that you can see the names at the top. So it's Brian Bendis, and you've got Alan Davis doing the lovely art. And that was really my main, one of my main attractions to this particular book. Avengers Prime, for those of you who don't know about this limited series, now this ushered in the heroic age that Marvel is now doing. Avengers Prime essentially is taking the Prime 3, taking Captain America, Steve Rogers, Iron Man, and Thor, and throwing them into this conflict where the 3 of them ultimately have to work together to get out, especially after all the differences that they've had, especially between Steve Rogers and Tony Stark. I mean, the 2 of them have obviously, since Civil War, had a very adversarial adversarial undercurrent, if you will. Really, Bendis, like I said, he's more hot than not. Avengers Prime, he was hot. It's not his best stuff, but it's very strong. And if you haven't gotten the individual issues, wait for the trade. Pick it up at your local comic book store. My local comic book store is Atomic Comics. I'm in Arizona, so it's Atomic Comics. Buy Atomic or die. That's my plug for them, and it's free, by the way. But Atomic Comics is really, I would say, the best comic book store around. I mean, there are others. There are Ash Avenue Comics in Mesa, and there's another one downtown Phoenix that I don't remember the name of, but I don't really remember it that well. So, anyway, support your local comic store. That's all I can say. Independent, whether it's independent or whether it's a chain. Atomic is, ultimately, it's a franchise, if you will. There are 5 locations all around Arizona. And go to it, because comics are important. They are our mythology. Do not give up on them. In 2,000 years, people will be reading this shit, and they'll be looking back, and they'll be saying, these were the heroes of our time. It's very important. It's very important to keep this mythology alive. If you look in the back of me, right here, you'll see right there, that is a book that my wife, my beautiful, lovely, caring wife, gave to me out of the kindness of her heart. It's a $200 book, and it's 75 years of DC Comics, the art of modern myth making. It's done by Paul Levitz, who is I think he's the EIC of DC Comics right now. EIC editor-in-chief. Sorry. And it's I think over 900 pages. It's not a coffee table book because it is the coffee table. I mean, Jesus Christ. I mean, the thing weighs probably about 30 pounds. And it's filled. I mean, I couldn't even pick it up and show you all the beautiful things that it has, because it's got, interior art, cover art for just about every comic that DC has ever put out. I mean, it's amazing. It's beautiful. It's wonderful, and that's why it costs $200. So if you have some disposable income around that you don't need to spend on whatever it is, get that book, because it's awesome. It's unbelievable, and you will have it for the rest of your life. I guarantee you. Anyway, so that's one of the reasons that I'm talking about this book, is not to brag that I have it, but or that my beautiful, lovely, talented, gorgeous wife got it for me, but because that's true. Modern myth making, that's what it's talking about. Mythology is a very important thing for us as human beings to have. We need heroes to aspire to be. You know, for hundreds and hundreds of years, we've had, you know, the Greek gods, the demigods, so on and so forth, you know, the Roman gods and demigods, and then we just kind of ran dry. All the, you know, and then, you know, kind of the, the English picked it up and they invented new heroes, and then finally, you know, America got around to creating its own heroes in, you know, in 4-color print form, and these are them. These are some of them anyway. You know, I mean, that's, you know, you've got some of the most iconic figures of modern America in these books. So I mean, this is why it's important. It's important to have heroes. It's important to have something to aspire to. I know I'm getting really way off topic here, but it's really important. I mean, it's necessary for a society to survive and thrive, to have even just fictional characters to aspire to be the best person that they can possibly be. So, enough of that. Back on to the comics. Now, Avengers Prime, and it's important that I talk about mythology as well in that respect, because that's what Avengers Prime is all about. It's about not just the mythology of these 3 heroes together, sorting out their differences in the midst of a battle, but it takes place in one of the 9. You know, it takes place in one of the 9 realms, and it's, you know, basically an Asgardian. You know, it's basically working on Asgardian Norse mythology. 3 of them are sucked in. Cap doesn't have his, you know, uniform. You know, Iron Man has his armor, but it's very rudimentary. And Thor doesn't really have his hammer. And the 3 of them are, you know, it starts out that they are dispersed through these, you know, through this realm, and they have to come together and ultimately fight Hela. Who Hela is, you know, essentially the Asgardian goddess of death, and she's really fucked things up for the 9 realms. So they have to take back the power. So I mean, this, I'm not going to say too much about this particular issue, other than Alan Davis, obviously one of the best artists to have lived in this century. Well, and in the last century as well. I keep thinking, I don't know, that's for some reason we're still in the 19s. But no, we're in the new millennium now. Better get used to it. But I mean, you know, definitely one of the greatest comic artists to have ever lived. And you know, the art in this is beautiful. It's honestly, I would say, some of the best work that he's done. Reading it's a treat, because Bendis is pretty spot on when it comes to his Avengers. So, and it's just, you know, it's a really entertaining read. It's a lot of fun. You know, it has a nice happy ending. Everything is wrapped up pretty neat and tidy for these 3 characters, and that's nice, because it's nice to have the heroes fucking win once in a while, you know, because a lot of times lately the heroes have been, you know, sucking, you know, sucking the business end of a revolver, because, you know, they just, you know, so much shit has been heaped on these guys. It's time that they finally got, you know, a couple of days in the sun, if you will, or at least a couple moments in the sun, where they can say, you know what, we did the right thing, we came through it okay, and it's not a darker place for it. Not that there shouldn't be those dark places that the comic books explore, but I'm just saying it's nice to have a little bit of a counterbalance every now and then. Coming up next, we've got more comics, so stick around. Don't touch that dial.